we will get started with Ikigai. So I'd love to know from those of you who are tuning in here, how many of you are familiar with the term Ikigai? I want you all in the chat box, if you can, just put yes in the chat box if you've heard this term before, if you know what it is, and put no if you're like, I have no idea what Ikigai is. Like, that's why I'm here. So if you could, in the chat box, let me know your familiarity with the term. Who are tuning in here, how many of you? All right, I see some folks say, I haven't heard of this before. Yeah. Well, if you haven't, that's okay. I see some more folks like, yeah, I don't know what this is. That's okay. It's actually not an English term. So Ikigai, what we're going to be talking about today, this Japanese term means a reason for being. It's the reason why you wake up in the morning. It's what makes life worthwhile. The word that we use commonly in English is your purpose. What is your purpose? What is it that you're here to do with this one life that you have, right? So as somebody personally who's really passionate about helping people to find and pursue their highest calling, I spent the last decade mentoring and coaching and advising students and adults on how to identify and pursue their purpose. And working in admissions at CCS for the past 4 years, I've had thousands of conversations with students about how to pursue their Ikigai as a creative person. Ikigai, everyone may have one, but as a creative person, we have some really special ways that we can look to pursue our Ikigai. So before I get into the details of how you can identify and pursue your own unique Ikigai, I want to really talk about why it matters and give you some examples of what it looks like. So first reason that an Ikigai matters, why you should even be worried about this in the first place, is we spend a lot of time in our lives in our career. The vast majority actually is spent in our careers. 80,000 hours is the average estimate of how much time we spend working, right? That's a lot of time and commitment to something that we're doing in our life, right? And as a young adult, figuring out what you want to do for the rest of your life at 17 or 18, even 20 years old, can be a really daunting task, right? That can be overwhelming. And to add to that task, the assignment of choosing a major at a college where you'll invest 4 years or more, plus thousands of dollars to pursue what you want to do. And you've got really a list of choices that can become even more overwhelming and anxiety inducing. In fact, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, about 80% of students in the US end up changing their major at least once, right? And that ends up adding more years to one's college degree path. It ends up costing students more money, which ends up making student debt larger. And so the concept of Ikigai is not just helpful for figuring out your purpose, but it's really helpful as it pertains to pursuing your college education, because it can provide more clarity and confidence, right, about the degree that you want to pursue. And that can help you save some time, save some money in the long run, and feel really confident about what it is that you're trying to learn and how you want to apply that to your life after college, right? So this is what an Ikigai looks like right here. Your Ikigai is this little tiny star in the middle of 4 questions. So it's the answer to these 4 questions. What do I love to do? What am I good at? What do I feel the world needs? And what can I get paid to do, right? It's important that your Ikigai is very smack dab in the middle of all 4 of these questions, and not just a couple of these questions, right? Because, for example, if you are pursuing something that only answers 1 or 2 of these questions, you may have a vocation or a passion, but it's not going to meet all the requirements for you to be truly fulfilled in your purpose. So, for example, if you find something that you are really good at and you can get paid to do that thing, you may have a comfortable life. You know, you may live in a place that you love. You may be, don't have to worry about your bills. But if you're not doing something that you personally feel the world needs, you may end up feeling a little empty or purposeless, right? I don't know if you all are familiar with the term of a midlife crisis or existential crisis, but that's where that comes from. People are like, what am I doing with my life, right? Or conversely, if you find that you're doing something that you love doing, it's something that you feel the world needs, you feel driven and moved to do what you're doing, but you're not getting paid to do that thing. You may have a sense of mission, but you're not going to have the time or energy to really invest in that thing, right? And that's what people are doing when they're doing what they love on the side, but they have to figure out a full-time job to support them so they can eat, right? So they can't put their heart and their soul into that thing they love. And so it's really important that we think about, how can I find something that answers all four of these questions, right? Getting paid, a lot of people are worried about that, but there is a way to get paid to do pretty much everything. And we'll talk about that in today's presentation. So I want to show you a few examples of what pursuing your Ikigai as a creative person looks like. So I'm going to show you some examples of alumni from CCS who have followed their Ikigai, and then we'll start to help you explore yours, okay? So first I'm going to start with Todd Smith, who is a graphic design or communications design graduate from CCS. I'm actually going to read a direct quote from him about pursuing his path. He says, "For as long as I can remember, there have been two constants in my life: art and sport. In school, I was constantly yelled at for drawing too much in class, and regardless of the weather, I was always outside, kicking, throwing, or chasing a ball around. Eventually, I realized my passions could become a career, and that Nike could be a perfect destination for me to pursue both of them at the same time. So after graduating from the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, Michigan, I moved to Oregon and made my goal a reality. Simple as that, really. 19 plus years later, I'm still here chasing after my original childhood passions day in and day out. Lucky me." That's what it sounds like to have an Ikigai, right? So in his work as a senior designer for global football equipment at Nike, Todd has led teams of designers responsible for soccer balls, shin guards, and goalie gloves. He also mentors young designers, so he's doing work that feels meaningful and powerful to him. He's combining the things that he loves and taking skills that he learned at CCS to be able to get paid to do that, be surrounded by the things that he loves most. So this is him as a kid, and he's still that same person, waking up every day getting to do what he loves. Another great example is Veronica Scott. She actually discovered her Ikigai during her junior year at CCS. I'm actually going to play a video of her explaining how she discovered the difference that she wanted to make in the world using what she loves to do and what she's good at.
This all started off as a class project out of College for Creative Studies here in Detroit. And I was studying product design at the time and ended up getting my degree in product design, so no fashion background and no experience in sewing. And this was a class project out of a studio. And the whole point of the studio was to design to fill actual needs rather than design pretty, shiny, fast things that ended up becoming trash, and how to actually fill needs with products. And so I ended up spending a lot of time on the streets in this area, specifically in a shelter called NSO. Having the people on the streets be a part of the design process became really important, and then eventually realizing that the coat itself didn't really matter. Because really a coat is a Band-Aid for a bigger, more systemic issue. And I only realized that when going back to the shelter with this finished coat sleeping bag, and at the time it wasn't exactly the sleekest thing in the world, going back to the shelter with this coat, there was a woman that actually ended up yelling at me. And she's saying, we don't need coats, we need jobs. And she was entirely correct, because a coat, like I said, on its own doesn't amount to much, but it has far more impact when it can affect the people in the community in a way of not just giving them something, but helping them stay employed and really employ the people that were going to receive the coat in the first place.
When I first came to the empowerment plan, I was homeless at the time, and now I see a lot of people with the coat on, and I stop and tell them I'm happy to see it on them, and I made that coat, I'm with the company that makes it, and they thanks me. They said, it's really warm, and it's like, wow. So, it's a blessing. I look at it as a great blessing.
We only hire from shelters, because usually the people inside of those shelters are pretty much blacklisted from a lot of other jobs. And they're really not valued as much as they should be, and as seen as somebody that can learn and grow and rise to a challenge and come out the other side even stronger than when they started. So we hire for multiple different reasons, but these are the people that are not normally given that chance to apply for jobs. And I go in there saying, this is your opportunity for a clean slate. One of the things I enjoy the most is seeing the transition someone makes when they first start with us to the person they really are. Everyone we hire is kind of in a survival mode. They're not sure where they're sleeping at night. They're not sure where their next meal is going to come from. They're not positive about any of that. So they're living kind of from moment to moment. And they're still also out there looking for jobs and looking for employment, ways to get in money. And that person has pushed all of their actual personality, who they are, down so much to just survive and to take care of their family. And so seeing somebody come in and they're always very quiet, and I can tell you this is the same for everyone on here, you know, you don't, they're like, oh, everybody's so quiet. They're very dedicated to the job. They want to prove that they're not going to fail, that they're worth it, that, you know, it was worth taking a risk on them. And I don't think of it as a risk. I think of it as a great investment in someone. And so they're so quiet, and then a couple months as we go on and as we give them that opportunity to make mistakes and not have it be the end of the world or the end of their job, they start to open up a lot more, and then the personalities come out. And then the hair gets done and the nails and the clothes, and all of a sudden there is this person again with an identity that is theirs and not in survival mode. You know, never in a million years did I think that a class project I did while going to school, it would ever become a business, let alone anything that actually had a real lasting effect on anybody. To know that the women feel more stable and that they can offer and provide a better life for their kids, that they know where they're going to sleep at night, that know they can feed and clothe their children, that they're going to have a meal ready for them when they come home from school, and know that they can get them to school, are all things I'm so happy and I wouldn't have even believed years ago if you told me that I could have done.
Just love that story. And the empowerment plan, that company that she started from that classroom assignment, it just started with 3 workers, right? 3 people who were experiencing homelessness and a little bit of small seed funding from some CCS connections. It has now grown rapidly to become a $4.5 million enterprise. So again, she is paid to do work that is powerful and meaningful. And now over 45,000 coats have been distributed to people in need across the US and 20 countries across the world. The organization has now hired more than 95 individuals and have moved all of them from the shelter into permanent housing within 4 to 6 weeks of starting work. Not a single person who has worked for her company has fallen back into homelessness. Among her many accolades, Veronica is the youngest person to receive the JFK New Frontier Award. Carolyn Kennedy said that she's changing the world one coat at a time. And because of this company, even during the pandemic, Veronica has been able to stay in business, not having to lay off employees. She's even partnered with local nonprofits to produce PPE for frontline doctors and nurses and hospital workers. Her business is so successful that it is branching to other cities, and she is making a difference in the world using design skills that she learned at CCS. Right? That's what
This all started.
So a few more examples. Rachel Elise Thomas is a documentary photographer and collage artist who uses her art to explore African-American life, culture, and tradition. Being a collage artist and editorial photographer has given her the versatility to tell stories in a lot of different ways. So with her personal work, she assembles imagery and materials and encourages her viewers to take a deeper look into the messages that she's presenting, messages around identity, ancestry, spirituality. She also really uses her work as a way to further understand and help others understand and delve into issues that affect our society, like overconsumption or vanity or materialism or colorism or sexism and racism. So to date, she's been published by the New York Times, the New Republic, Rolling Stone magazine, the Marshall Project, InStyle, and countless other publications. So she says she finds great satisfaction in exhibiting her work as a fine art photographer, and has been fortunate to have been a part of 2 fellowships and 2 residency programs thus far in her career. So she does work that tells these stories, but she's telling stories that she finds meaningful, right? She's getting people to think about subjects that she wants to have an impact on, right? And there are things that are personal to her experience. Similarly, Wendy Froud is an American doll artist, sculptor, and puppet maker, and a writer. She's best known for her work fabricating Yoda for the 1980 Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back. So she's been referred to, I love calling her the mother of Yoda. And she just creates creatures that she loves, right? She created puppets for Jim Henson films like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. But her Ikigai didn't just start in college, right? Your Ikigai typically is something you've been doing your whole life or passionate about your whole life. She loved making dolls. Like she was at 6 years old making her own dolls. This has been something she's always loved. And her advice that she gives to people for a life well lived, this is one of her quotes, is to find something that you truly believe in and wish to share with the world. And she truly believes in these fantasy worlds. She lives in a castle in England, for God's sake. So again, she's getting paid to do these things. But fantasy is her love, and she brings that love to others through her craft. Last example I'll share today is Jason Maden. Growing up, Jason was obsessed with Jordan shoes and specifically Michael Jordan, who was his icon. Jason also loved his art classes in school. So I'm actually going to play a video where he explains how he explored and discovered his Ikigai and how it evolved throughout his career and his life.
You have to be comfortable in the skin that you're in, because by you being comfortable with your dream, you allow someone else to have their dream.
Before becoming a co-founder and CEO of a Silicon Valley startup, Jason Maden spent over a decade at Nike. He approaches design like the athletes he worked with, constantly practicing his craft, training in the off-season, and staying ready for game time. Here's how he got here.
My upbringing in Chicago informed my design craft because of being industrious, being communicative, being creative was just in the fabric and DNA of people on the South Side. Growing up, we heard stories of Michael Jordan shooting 1,000 free throws a day.
Michael, what he's done is he's been able to get to the free throw line. He's 6 of 6.
I applied that same cadence and discipline to my craft. From freshman year all the way up until now, I typically try to average about 1,000 sketches a day. I'm constantly moving my hand to make sure that I'm in that rhythm so that when I'm called into the game like Michael, I'm already ready to go. Everyone assumes that, I succeeded on my first try to get into Nike. Unfortunately, I did not. I was rejected 3 times and it hurt, but you brought up the wound and it's so soon. No, I'm just kidding. But once I got there, I had the good fortune of being Nike's first African-American design intern. I worked on everything from lace tips to a shoe called the AJ-17 Mule that went to production. And by the end of my internship experience, I was given a full-time role. So I went back to CCS in Detroit where I was studying industrial design. And then I went back to fulfill that full-time role. Throughout my 14 years of being at Nike, I went from being an intern to an executive, and I did everything from branding for athletes to strategy to understanding supply chain, working on everything from soft goods to software, from footwear to firmware. I threw myself into the business fully because I wanted to learn. Along my journey in design, I had always desired to advocate for the creative voices that weren't present in the room when business decisions were being made. So I went and I applied for business school at Stanford Graduate School of Business. When I was working at Nike, I knew that I had a gift for working with athletes and working on physical product. It wasn't until I came to Stanford that I discovered that my process and how I thought was actually my true skill, and that was transferable to any industry. I've had the great fortune in my career to work with legends and icons such as Michael Jordan himself, Derek Jeter, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Eminem, Russell Westbrook. It was a tremendous experience that broadened what I believed were my opportunities in the world. Most innovation is born from unfortunate circumstances. My son, had developed a health condition that made him not love who he was. And as any father would do, you put everything on the line for your family. So I walked away from my dream job. I went back to Stanford, worked as a researcher at the D School, and found solutions to help my son. And then I fell upon this idea. Super Heroic is a company that focuses on what we call multimodal play. So it's essentially trying to reinvent the way children interact with the built environment and the world in which they live. Some of the skills that I find very applicable and helpful in the design industry is the willingness to persist in the face of ambiguity. It's critically important that we run towards those question marks because that's where we find discoveries and breakthroughs and innovations that can change the world and change society. The lesson I would tell students is that no one is expecting you to be perfect, but people expect for you to be disciplined. Discipline is what wins games.
The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship.
Discipline is what makes the difference between someone who succeeds and someone who doesn't. Also, be patient. So many of us are pushed to succeed rapidly. There's no such thing as an overnight success. There are people who've been in motion for years and we're just seeing the end result. So be patient with yourself, be patient with your process, always stay learning, and you'll have a very fruitful, enjoyable life and career.
And Jason has had a very fruitful life and career pursuing his Ikigai. And the beautiful thing about when people are passionate about their profession, and it also makes a difference, is that it gets noticed across the world, right? When you're helping people and doing so powerfully, it gets noticed. So because of this, Jason has been featured on multiple most inspiring lists. He's been included in Fast Company's 100 most creative people in the business and Ebony's Power 100. A really fun fact, he is the entity behind Jason Maden Day in Austin, Texas, which is March 17th. He has his own day named after him in Austin, Texas, because of how powerfully he is pursuing his Ikigai. So let's talk about how we can get you to explore and pursue your Ikigai. We're going to start to think about how you can answer these 4 questions, starting with, what do I love to do, right? An easy way of just doing this is to make a list, but here are some things to think about to get further insights about what you really, really love. What do you do in your spare time, right? What are your hobbies and your interests? What are your favorite classes or school groups in school? Are there things that you're always looking to get involved in or play around with? What did you love doing or thinking about when you were a child, right? Some of us, we love things that we don't actually spend time doing because we feel like we have to do everything else in the world. But like Wendy Froud, who was building dolls at 6, that's what she loved, right? Go back to maybe your childhood love. A great way of knowing what you love is what you do without people telling you to do it. If you do it as a volunteer, if you do it because it makes your heart sing and no one has to ask you to do it, that's a great sign that you probably love that thing. I know I would mentor students for fun. I was just like, can I come and talk to CCS students? This is before I even start working at admissions. It's something that I love doing. What do you do? And then the last thing is finding a theme. And I call this exercise a love audit. If you're just like, I don't know what I love, I don't know, I like tacos, and it's hard to figure out some other things that you love, here are some places to look. Look at your common Google or YouTube searches. What are the common hashtags that you're looking up, right? Is there a particular type of content that you look at on social media? Who are the people that you follow and why do they inspire you? Look at the books that you own. Is there a common theme that comes across? I know for me, all my books fall into 2 categories. It's either personal growth and mentoring or art and creativity. Like those are the things that I love. Do you know if you don't know what you love to do, look at, as it pertains to art, maybe look at the people whose work you admire and what they do, right? Maybe there's a particular type of art that you love or creativity that you love, right? So look at those themes and see if there are any overlaps or things that really, really stand out. Okay. Next question. What am I good at? So there are a lot of ways to answer this question. One is looking at the skills or talents that you naturally have, right? There's some things that you may have been good at since you were young. What classes do you get A's in, right? I know a lot of students who come to CCS get A's in their art classes, but they also get A's in their English classes, right? Maybe they're good at writing or thinking. Maybe they get A's in some of their extracurriculars, right? What do your friends and family members always ask you to help with? Are there particular favors or requests that are always being asked of you? If your school is always asking you to make the logo for your band or make the flyer for a concert, your friends always asking you to shoot their photos, that's a sign that you may be good at something creative, right? Maybe think of the last few times that you received praise or an award. I know a lot of students who come to CCS, they typically get a Scholastic Award, right? Honorable mention, a silver key, a gold key, or if you got placed in a county art fair, right? That's a sign that you may be good at art, right? Another way of thinking about what you are good at is what you want to become better at, right? Because at 16, 17, 18, even 20, you are not the best at all the things that you can be good at, right? So you may want to simply ask yourself, what do I want to become better at, right? Do I want to be better at drawing? Do I want to take better photos, right? Do I want to be the best sculptor that I can be? If the answer is yes, that's another way of answering the question, what am I good at? Because another way of looking at this is, what do I want to become good at, right? Question number 3, and this is the one that oftentimes gets overlooked the most. A lot of people don't think of this when they're planning out their career. What does the world need? What do I personally feel the world needs? The best way that you can answer this question is to ask yourself, if you could change any 3 things about the world or this society, what would you change? I know for me, one of those things is people feeling like their creativity is powerful and it matters. That is very important to me. I know so many people who have not pursued, my dentist didn't pursue art because her family told her that she couldn't. And it breaks my heart. I wish I could just change all the people who feel like art isn't valid, because it is, right? It's something I'm really passionate about. And people living on purpose, something that I'm really passionate about. I think everybody has a purpose. Everybody is born unique and has a powerful gift in them. And I just wish that everyone in the world knew what it was and could go and live their life doing that thing. That's something I'm really, really, really passionate about. So this is why I do what I do, right? I'm living my Ikigai. But for you, what are 3 things you change? Maybe it's a social cause that you're really, really passionate about, right? Black Lives Matter, or Stop Asian Hate, or LGBTQIA rights, right? Are those things that really move you? Maybe your art can have an impact on that. Your creativity can have an impact on that, like Rachel Thomas, who we talked about earlier. Another way of looking at what you feel the world needs is using your personal experiences of adversity. Maybe you want to solve a problem that you personally face so that others don't have to experience that. I know one thing that wasn't shared as strongly in the video with Veronica Scott is that her parents struggled with addiction, and she experienced homelessness. Right? She experienced that lifestyle and knew how difficult it was and didn't want others to have to go through that, right? Maybe you want to help others in a way that you've been helped, right? I know for me, I've had amazing mentors. One of my top mentors is actually my CCS admissions counselor who still works at CCS. She's one of the most inspiring people I know. And that's why I do what I do, because that was a difference that was made in my life that I want to pass on to others. So maybe someone helped you, reach out to you, and supported you in a way that you think, I want to do this for other people, right? Maybe your art teacher inspires you and you want to give back to others in a similar way. So a great way to find out what you feel the world needs is thinking about who you find to be inspiring and motivational, and ask yourself, what difference are they making in the world? Is that also the difference I want to make? Or do I want to make a difference in a similar arena? That can give you some ideas to start to think about what difference you want to make in the world. Now, this last one is the tricky one with our creative folks. This is a big one that scares a lot of people away from pursuing their Ikigai, because they automatically assume that what they love most won't help them make money. Take creativity, for example, right? There's so many young artists that falsely assume that there is no way to get paid doing their art, or worse, they don't understand that they can literally change the world with their creativity. So they don't look further into their creativity, right? They're like, I'll just get a job that's reliable. I know I can pay the bills. Now, I can't speak to every industry that's out there, but if you are interested in art and design, let me tell you now that there are thousands upon thousands of ways that people can get paid as creatives, okay? Let me just tell you, this is actually outdated. This is 2018, this is 2021, so these numbers are a bit higher now. But when I say paid, I mean a livable wage. I don't mean barely scraping by, right? These are the average salaries from 2018, right? Inflation, there has been inflation. So these prices are a little bit higher, right? These are not starving artists that I'm talking about, right? In the US alone, there are nearly 700,000 businesses that employ millions of people, right? And about 2 million of those people, a little over 2 million of those people, are artists and designers, right? These people are making up $800 billion of the US economy, right? The arts, which includes design, contributes to more than $8 billion of the US economy, according to the National Endowment of the Arts, right? And these industries employ more than the performing arts and sports industries combined, right? So I'm talking about athletes, actors, performers, dancers, this behind the stage, the behind the scenes. Like, artists and designers influence every facet of culture and life that we experience, whether we know it or not, right? Fashion accessories designers and fashion designers and footwear designers, they design the shoes, the accessories, the garments, the clothes that we wear on a day-to-day basis. Product designers design and create literally every single product that we use every day, whether it's our phone, our blow dryer, or the table that we sit at, right? Concept designers design the characters and the worlds that we see in the movies that we watch. Directors, writers, visual effects artists, and producers create the movies and TV shows that we love, right? Creative directors, copywriters, art directors, they work on the commercials in between every single show that we watch, as well as all the other types of advertising that we see, like online content and media, social media, speaking on behalf of brands and social causes and celebrities and political parties and much more, right? And then you think about the entertainment artists out there, the cartoonists, the storyboard artists, the video game builders, the compositing artists who are creating the cartoons and video games that we love, right? Craftspeople who are out there creating the objects that shift and influence culture, whether it's our jewelry, the textiles on our furniture, the furniture itself, and much, much more, right? Think about this. Interior designers. If you're sitting at home right now, you're sitting in a space anywhere, right? An interior designer designed the interior of where you are, but the interiors of our hospitals, our airports, our schools, our places of worship, our offices, our vehicles, right? The commercial spaces we shop in. Trend forecasters and color materials designer influence the look and feel of everything that we buy. Communications designers design the logos we see on everything, the packaging on everything that we consume. Interaction designers influence every website that we visit or app that we use. We're on Zoom. Someone had to think about the layout and the usability of this app, right? This platform. User experience, user interface design, right? Transportation designers imagine and design the vehicles that get us around this entire planet, whether they're cars, motorcycles, boats, jets, planes, military vehicles, garbage trucks. I mean, like everything, right? They innovate the future of how we will move through autonomous vehicles or vehicles that don't even exist yet. I love this design here on the bottom, this spacecraft. Like, we influence everything. Photographers, they shoot the images that we see on billboards, online, in magazines, right? Whether it's commercial photography for the industry or documentary photography for news outlets or beautiful fine art photography. Olivia shoots beautiful self-portraits that are inspiring and heart-wrenching, right? The work that we see in galleries. Practicing studio artists and illustrators make art that causes us to stop and think and feel, whether that's at a museum or it's a mural that we're passing by on the streets. These artists are curators, they're art historians, they're gallery owners, they're art educators, they're running businesses, right? When you want to know how to get paid to do something that you love, here are some tips as a creative person, right? First thing is to think about companies that you admire, places that you love to work. Here are a few companies here where our alumni have gone on to work. And just look at their career or job pages, right? Oftentimes you'll find there are creative positions or entire creative offices in these companies, even if it's not a creative company specifically, right? Tesla doesn't make art, but they have creative people who work there, right? Instagram, not just the content creators that post on their pages, but the people who actually work at Instagram or BuzzFeed or Nike or Apple or CNN or National Geographic, right? They have artist careers, designer careers, right? If you have a college major you're interested in, but you're not sure how much it pays or if it pays, look up salary ranges for the various jobs that graduates have from that specific major, right? So a great exercise to help you do this is go on the CCS website for the majors that you're interested in and just look at the list of careers. So we have a list on every major's page of all the different types of careers, right? And there may be things you've never heard of before, like a web artist or an art administrator, right? Or an artist agent. Go and look up these careers and just simply look up jobs, right? Go look up these job titles and see how much they get paid. You'll find for every single one, I promise you, there's none of them where the salary is zero, right? These people get paid to do what they do for a living. All right, so let's talk about how to pursue your Ikigai. Once you've taken the answers to all 4 of these questions, you've asked yourself, what do I love to do? What am I good at? What do I feel the world needs? And what can I get paid to do, right? Let's figure out how to combine these things or how to get closer to pursuing your Ikigai. As a high school student or even a college transfer student, it's pretty easy to know what you love and to figure out what you feel the world needs. You kind of know your passions and what moves you. College is a great tool. It's a great way for learning to become good at something and connecting you with opportunities that allow you to get paid to work in a field that allows you to do that thing, right? So college is a very simple, easy, I won't say simple, easy, but it's a straightforward way of pursuing your Ikigai. Not mandatory, but it's a great way to helping, right? Because there typically is a history of hundreds of years of alumni from an institution that are following their Ikigai specific to what they're interested in that you may have overlapping interest in. But one exercise, without having to go and get a whole college degree, that's really really easy and accessible. I tell students, just use Google. This is how you do this, right? This is how you start to pursue your Ikigai using Google. You can discover careers that exist that you may not have known exist that align with your Ikigai by entering keywords from each of those 4 bubbles of the Ikigai, right? So if you enter a keyword from each area of your Ikigai, plus the word job, because that automatically equates to payment, right? How you get paid to do it, you'll get some instant answers. So I'm going to actually use an example from a student that I spoke with to help her pursue her Ikigai. So when I asked the student what she loved to do, she's like, I'm obsessed with nail polish. I love painting my nails. I love nail art. I'm always looking at nail artists online. I like posting on social media. I like being on social media. I'm pretty good at writing. I get A's in my English classes. I love making things coordinate. I'm very fashionable. My friends always ask me to help them coordinate their outfits. And what I feel the world needs is more beauty, right? So we know what she loves. We know what she's good at. She's good at writing and making things coordinate. And she feels like the world needs beauty. And when I say beauty, she meant like people need to feel confident in how they look. They need to know that they're beautiful on the inside and radiate that outwards. Add these words to Google, right? So I told her, let's look up nail polish, writing, beauty, and job, right? Or get the, more specific beyond that, like, we looked that up, and then what came up was who names nail polishes. I was like, that's an interesting career. Who names nail polishes? So in this Google search, her and I discovered that the person who names nail polishes, who writes on behalf of nail companies, is a brand manager or a copywriter who works in a cosmetic company. We Googled how much that job pays as a brand manager for a cosmetic company. And on average, they earn $79,480 a year. That's a decent living wage, right? But they do so many other things that this student was interested in. Brand managers manage product lines. They actually get to test the products. They get to decide what products should launch and which ones shouldn't, right? They get to decide what the packaging should look like. They get to direct designers and the design of those products and how they look. They look after social media, like they actually manage social media feeds. They create content and so much more. The student was on fire. She's like, I want to do, that's my job. I want to do that, right? And that's because it's a combination of what she loves to do, what she felt the world needs, what she was eager to become even better at, but what she already was kind of good at, and how it could relate to a career path, right? So I encourage you to get on Google and just start to ask them the keywords from your 4 questions and see what comes up. Just explore and tinker that way. Also, a great way of pursuing your Ikigai is to look for mentors who are following their own Ikigai. Ask them about their journey. Ask them what advice they give someone who is interested in a similar path. Ask them what they regret doing or what they didn't pursue that they wish they would have when they were younger. This can give you some insights for how to pursue what you are passionate about, right? What your purpose is. High school counselors are a great resource for learning about opportunities to shadow in someone's career. They can help you learn about career paths that you may not know about, or colleges to consider where you can start to pursue these paths. In the worksheet, we actually included at the end of your packet a worksheet where you can actually start to explore your Ikigai. So you can actually write in there, print it out and write in it, or on your computer, start to fill it out and start to explore these things. CCS's counselors, me, Olivia, Sabrina, Laura, April, Sasha, there's a whole team, Eric, whole team of admissions counselors here. Many of us pursuing our own Ikigai in the art and design field, who are passionate about making sure that you are doing the same. So reach out to us, right? Ask us questions. Getting hands-on, trying out the things that you're interested in before you invest college level tuition dollars in it, right? A great way of getting hands-on with your Ikigai, or what may be your potential Ikigai, are pre-college summer experiences or pre-college classes. CCS has a ton of amazing classes. I'm going to put the link in the chat box here, where you can try out your hand at fashion or concept design or photography or crafts, whatever you're interested in. And try it and see if that passion is sustained as you start to do that thing, right? As you learn to become better at it. There's no better way of knowing if you love or hate something than doing it as a college student without paying college level tuition. I can promise you that. I know when I was in high school, I thought I may want to be an automotive designer one day because I love design. I came and did the pre-college experience. I learned that I love the design process. I love being around artists. I love talking about design ideas. And I do not like drawing cars. I learned that really fast. And that saved me a lot of tuition dollars from choosing the wrong major. Right. So get hands-on. Come try some things with us. So these are some helpful tips for how to pursue your Ikigai. I hope that you all, in hearing these stories of people pursuing their Ikigai, of learning what it is, you are inspired and excited to start to explore your own Ikigai. So if you feel that art and design is a part of your Ikigai, I want to just do a quick shameless plug. Clearly, CCS is a great resource and opportunity to pursue it and pursue your purpose. So if you have questions, Olivia placed our information in the chat box for you to schedule a Zoom meeting with our counselors. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to answer your questions about careers or alumni or hands-on opportunity and much more. But now I'm going to stop talking and see if you all have any questions right now that we can answer about pursuing your Ikigai. Or doing so at CCS. Do you all have any questions? Feel free to put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. No questions? This is the first time I've done this presentation and had no questions. That's awesome. Even though I think questions are amazing. Well, I am glad that I see someone in the comments in the chat box said they don't have questions, but they thought this was really helpful. I am super glad that you found that this was a helpful presentation for you, a helpful workshop. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And if you are interested in revisiting this, the recording will be sent out afterwards. If you have friends you want to share the presentation with, please share the word. And we look forward to helping you pursue your creative path and your Ikigai. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good night. Oh,